So we're up to 18 now. Okay, good. All right, guys. Well, thank you all very much for your patience while we got started for all this stuff. I hope you guys are going to enjoy today's presentation. Well, first of all, for those who don't know me, my name is Donovan, but everyone tends to call me Dono. Occasionally, I get the moniker Photo Dono. I work here at Johnson Photo Imaging in Bradenton, Florida, and I'm also I get to hold another lofty title called the Director of Education, which basically means I get to coordinate these things, and I say, "Here, you guys go teach." So that's basically kind of how it works sometimes. Today we got, of course, we got Kevin from Hahnemühle, and of course Miss Brenda Hipsher from X-Rite and Mac Fund as well too. So the idea is that they're here they're basically here out of the goodness of their hearts to help us out, to give us a little bit of a presentation about why my print doesn't match my monitor. So I'm sure most of you have stumbled upon this issue at one form or another. And, you think that since I work in a store with printing that this would be solved just like that, but no, it never truly is. There's always some little monkey to throw into the wrench, whether it's paper or skill set on the other part or whatever. So the idea is hopefully this will help give you a better understanding of all the stuff. Keep in mind, we carry most of the X-Rite products here at the store. We also carry almost a full line of Hahnemühle product here. So we got plenty of stuff here. So if you're in Bradenton, for some of the folks I know, I recognize some of the names. You can always more than welcome to stop in. We also carry printers as well too. So if you want to be able to print on your own, cut out the middleman, that's fine too. We still supply ink and paper. So there you go. All right, like I said, I don't know if anybody heard, everyone should be muted except for me, Kevin, and Brenda. If you guys got questions, please, by all means, set the questions to the chat. And that way you can send the chat to me privately if you want, or you can send the chat to everyone. Brenda, while she's doing, Brenda, you're going first, right?
Yes, sir.
So Brenda's going first. She won't be able to see her screen for the chats while she's doing the presentation. So if you got questions for Brenda during it, she says that's fine. Just put them in the chat and I'll make sure she gets it, or Kevin will see it and he'll make sure he gets it as well. She gets it as well. All right. So we got more people popping in. Great. Awesome. All right. Without any other further ado-dos, I think we should get this puppy started, right?
All right, let's get this thing off the ground. All
right, Brenda. Well, thank you very much, Brenda. Thank you, Kevin. Off we go, guys.
We're happy to be here. Oh, that's not a good start. So today we're gonna talk about why doesn't my print match my monitor? And X-Rite is co-sponsoring this webinar, Zoom Room, Facebook Live with our friends at Hahnemühle. I'm just thrilled. This is our first co-sponsored program, and I'm so happy to have Kevin and Veronica here with us. And so we're gonna have a good time. If you guys have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll do our very best to answer them as we go. If we don't answer them as we go, we'll get them at the end. That little rooster's going nuts here. So as I said, the name of our program is Why Doesn't My Print Match My Monitor? Or as we say down south, why don't my picture match my screen? Now, I'm the brand manager for X-Rite Photo Video at Mac Group. Mac Group is the North American distributor for X-Rite photo and video products. In my early life, 100 years ago, I managed photo labs back when they were wet dark rooms, and even before there were automatic machines in labs. I worked in studios, commercial labs. I shot a lot of stock photography, and even today in my spare time, just for fun, I like to shoot art repro copy work because it's really, really hard, and I really enjoy doing it. So Kevin, unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm currently the sales manager for the eastern part of the United States and Canada, essentially the I-95 corridor for Hahnemühle. And I also handle our Canadian distributor, Amplis, in Toronto. I used to live in Toronto, so I'm pretty familiar with the cast of characters, but we have a sole distributor up in Canada. I've been with Hahnemühle for about 6.5 years. I've been in the paper industry for most of my life in some fashion or another. My previous employers include Ilford. I worked for Ilford for almost 18 years, handling all sorts of odds and ends with them, including the Canadian market. I worked as a district sales manager, and I handled our export business. And I'm still an avid photographer. I shoot all the time. I'm currently shooting with a Ricoh GR2 because it's light and it's portable. I don't shoot enough. I wish I had more time to do that. Lately, you'd think we all have more time to shoot, but there's other things to do, and I'm still shooting film. I cherish my Leica M6, and I still shoot Ilford product. XP2 is generous. I worked retail for a long time. I spent formative years with Ritz Camera, and I think Donno's a former Ritz guy too. I mean, it's like the McDonald's of the photo industry. Most people have worked at Ritz Camera, and my associate number was 8971, just in case.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's about me. So.
Well, that's
Kev.
rich. Thanks.
Well, as you can see from our bios and what we listed here, both of us love photography. I've been in the photography business quite literally since I was 9 years old. I blacked in my grandmother's bathroom with a little darkroom kit that I got for Christmas when I was 9. I'm now 63 years old. You do the math on that. Suffice to say, I remember when RC paper came for black and white. I remember when multigrade paper came. I'm so old, I've forgotten more than most of these kids will ever know. But I'm going to tell you for sure, and I think you'll agree with me, Kevin, that this is the golden age of photography. This is the best time ever to have photography as a hobby, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much available to us. So much available. I agree.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's just amazing. So I keep trying. I'm having a little trouble getting my slides. So since I was a lab rat, as they used to call us, I want to be sure that I get what I see. If I'm out taking a picture, I want to know, and back in the old days, I chose the kind of film. I knew how it was going to get processed. I knew that if it was exposed properly and I chose the right kind of film, the right light and so forth, that I knew exactly what I was going to get on that print. And that's what I want out of digital photography. Now with digital photography, nothing is different than it ever was with film, except that we do our own color management. This all used to happen by the manufacturers. Kodak, Fuji, Ilford, they coated the emulsions. We kept everything cold. We kept everything stable. The labs did their work. Believe me, there was color management going on all the time, but it was behind the scenes and the photographer did not have to do it on an active basis. Now it's our job and our privilege to get to do our color management because we can control everything. And what that control will give us is correct color at capture, correct color on our monitors when we edit, and then ultimately correct color on our output. And that, whether it's for the web, whether it's to share on Facebook, whether it's on a print, or whether it's going to offset press, the output has to match what our vision was when we captured that image. Now you would think, based on what I just said, that you would start with the camera. But that's not where we start with this process. Where we start with this process is the monitor. And the reason we start with the monitor is because that's where we do our editing. That's where the magic happens. And that is our viewfinder into the file. So if that monitor does not accurately show me what's in my file, I do not have a prayer of editing that photograph so that I'm going to get the output that I want. So people ask me all the time, why do I have to do color management? I'll just set my monitor so it looks good to my eyes. I know everybody in this industry has heard that phrase right there. And so I will submit to you a process here. I want you to count for me the white dots or the black dots, either one. I don't care. So the point of this slide is, if your eyes do this in black and white, what in the world do you think they do in color? Now look at these two boxes. Do they look like they're the same color? They don't to me. They look extremely different. And even when I put them together, they still look like they're different colors until I remove the background. And I can see that they are exactly the same color. This is not hocus pocus. This is for real. Look at these two blues. Do they look like they're the same blue? Not a bit. But if we remove that area in the middle, we see that they are. And same here. The one on the right to me looks way, way lighter than the one on the left. But when I remove those white bars, guess what happens? It's exactly the same color. So what does that tell us? It tells us that our eyes are easily influenced by surrounding colors. Whatever is in our peripheral vision, whatever we've been looking at just a few minutes earlier, that affects how we perceive what we're seeing. Eyes are very complicated. We really don't understand entirely how we see, and certainly not how we see color. It's a combination of the optic nerve and the rods and the cones and all of the different things that happen to our bodies on a day-to-day basis, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So most people think when I throw this up on the screen that it's a GIF. It's not. This is a still photograph. Now, if you're seeing a little bit of motion, you're not very tired. If you're seeing a lot of motion like I'm seeing, you're really tired already today. So what's going to happen is your eyes think they see motion when they really don't. Isn't that weird? And we also even have turns of phrase. Like we say, when someone's angry, we say they're seeing red, or we say that people are green with envy. Why do we say that? It's because our physical and our emotional state literally affects how we see color. If we're hungry, if we're angry, if we're tired, we are not going to have our most stable, most consistent color vision. So all of these things make it so that we need to be very careful when we're editing, and we need to understand that eyes, while they're wonderful things, and they give us our view of the world, they are not instruments to set up a monitor. Our ability to judge colors changes throughout the day. When I used to run color labs, we would do all our color critical testing and evaluation in the morning, so that in the afternoon, we were just looking at the numbers we had recorded in the morning for how we were going to make the final prints, because we knew that we were going to get tired. We knew that our color vision was not going to be as good in the afternoon. Now, some of you will not see a number in this field. And if you do not see a number, that means that you're suffering from a very, very common form of color vision deficiency, which is red-green color deficiency. The funniest thing in the world was when they started doing those crazy, all the same color uniforms on Thursday night football. The first football game they did was on a green field with one team wearing green and one team wearing red. And guess what? How many guys do you think color vision deficiency, particularly in red-green, is much more common in men than women? So guess who couldn't tell which team was which? Because they couldn't tell which color was which. Color vision deficiency is a big issue. The guy who taught me to see color in a color lab in South Louisiana in 1978 was himself colorblind, but he taught himself how to see the different gradations of gray. And then the final thing is age. As we age, the lens in our eyes becomes darker and more amber in color until we get our cataract surgery. And then we can see color just like we did when we were teenagers. But age is a big factor in how we see color. Now, the other thing that people tell me is this. Well, okay, whatever. If I buy a good monitor, the color is going to be right. Well, here's the deal. Unless you buy a monitor that is specifically designed for photo editing, that monitor is going to come out of the box very bright, like 3, 4, 5 times brighter than it should be to edit photographs, very high contrast, and a little bit cool or blue. So what does that mean? That means if you don't calibrate and profile your monitor, your prints are going to be, I'm going to ask you if any of you have ever had this happen, they're going to be too dark, they're going to be too flat, and they're going to be a little bit warm. And I'm going to bet you that there are some people in this webinar today who have had that experience. You're also going to have multiple monitors that need to be matched. On my desktop, I've got a MacBook Pro with a monitor, a very nice monitor in the MacBook, but I've got a large monitor that I work on. So I need those two monitors to match because it makes me nuts when they don't match. Your monitor also needs to match the monitor at your lab or your customer so that the edits you're making are appropriate for what you're going to get on your print output or what you're going to deliver to your customer. And monitors drift over time. So even if you buy one of those extremely expensive monitors that are calibrated at the factory, you still need to calibrate and profile that monitor on a regular basis because it will drift. Any piece of electronics will drift over time. Now, why do we need color management in the first place? If all of these devices produce the same group, the same set, the same gamut of colors, all we'd have to do is calibrate them to some single issue like black or white, and we'd be fine. But they don't. Every single one of these devices produces a different set of colors. Our cameras are going to give us sRGB or Adobe RGB. In some cases, we may have medium format cameras that even give us ProPhoto, which is a very, very large color space. Then we're going to have monitors like some very nice 4K Retina laptop displays, or a monitor that can give us basically 99% of Adobe RGB, but they're still missing some colors. And then we have paper and printer profiles. So that means whether you're printing at home or whether you're sending out to a lab, every printer paper ink combination has a profile that's appropriate for it. Some are larger, some are smaller. They're generally a very different size than monitor and camera profiles. And so what happens is when you go from your camera, which would be the larger size wireframe here, to your monitor, you're going to lose some. So there are going to be colors that you've captured that you may not necessarily be able to see perfectly, accurately on the monitor. So what do we do with those colors to get them into the gamut of the monitor? And then from the monitor to the printer, we're going to lose even more. Now this is not a problem for any particular paper or printer manufacturer. This is just the reality of what happens. The color space, the color gamut constricts as you move along the workflow. So even if we can see these colors here, we may not be able to reproduce them on the paper. And then when we get from the camera to the print, look how much difference we could conceivably have. So what's the answer? We need to have an unbiased device coupled with software that can calibrate and profile our monitor accurately. Now, this device does not get hungry. I cannot make it angry. Other colors in its field of view does not bother it. It gives me exactly what it's seeing all the time. And it talks to the software so that it's having a dialogue and creating what's called a lookup table, which we call a profile, an ICC profile. Now, the software knows exactly what color it's sending or luminance value that it's sending to the monitor. The hardware measures what the monitor is producing, and then the two are compared and a profile is produced that makes your monitor, whatever that monitor is, produce color as accurately as possible. So we've got a camera gamut, we've got print gamut, and that's what we have to do to make sure that our prints match our monitor. Now, here's a question. Once we've accomplished that, how do we make sure that our print matches the creative vision that we have for that image? So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about all the cool options for media that Hahnemühle has to offer.
Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that very much. So it's very difficult, in my opinion, to show the texture and the depth of papers, but I'll try and provide a 10,000 foot view, and then we'll get down to maybe 100 feet or so, and talk about a few papers and give you some things that I hear quite a lot at trade shows or when I attend dealer events, whether they're in person or Zoom meetings. First of all, Hahnemühle is a paper mill. We make paper. That's what we do. We've been making paper since 1584. Our mill is located in Dassel, Germany, which is in northern central Germany. It's been sitting on the same plot of land since 1584, 436 years. We're in 80 countries around the world. We've got 7 here in the US. We make 3 different kinds of papers. We make artist paper. If Brenda was a watercolorist, she would be using our papers. We make filtration papers for high-end technical, and actually our mill is making COVID-19 consumables for testing kits in Europe. So that's a new venture for us. We're going to talk a little bit about the digital fine art, that is digital printing from various printers, Epson, HP, Canon. There's a lot of them on the market. JPI is a big Canon user. Dono prints Canon Pro 1000, and he prints those astro images that make you cry as far as I'm concerned. They're just stunning. Dono's a fine printer. So people say, they come up to me all the time at trade shows and they say, well, how would this image look on this paper? Or tell me about your papers, or, oh my gosh, Kevin, you make all these different papers. I'm going to try and demystify it for you and just try and boil it down, keep it simple. First of all, papers are emotional, right? Think about that. Papers will either whisper to you, they might mumble, or they might sing. And they're going to sing to different people, different things. So I will try and just go through very, very touch base on the papers. Digital fine art, this is our website. Digital fine art media, it's about us, talks about the history, but digital fine art media. And this is how I'm going to roll it around for you. Let's not talk about canvas. That's a different animal. We look at the broad view of our papers by the surface: glossy, textured, smooth, or natural line. The natural line is really smooth, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But let's work them backwards. Within the glossy line, there's 8 different papers, and this is where the confusion starts. But I have to remind people, take a step back. Different surfaces, different base tints, different glossinesses. So the best thing that I can recommend to do is to buy a sample pack. It's got 2 different sheets in it. They're labeled, 8 different papers. See which one works for you. Certain images look better on super glossy. Some images might look better on flat matte. Again, it's an emotional choice. I've had people say, well, I don't like glossy. And I look at their images and say, you might not like glossy, but I think your images deserve to be printed on glossy. Our sample packs, again, have 8 different ones in it, including the Photo Rag Metallic, which is truly a stunning picture. I'm going to go back to Dono again. He prints his astro images on this, and it just is unbelievable, the texture and the tonality of this paper. 13 by 19, in my opinion, is the way to go. Go big or go home. You can gang up images on them and things like that. You'll find a couple of papers.
Kevin, I'm going to interrupt you. I've been in the business for a very long time, as I said. And when I saw your metallic fine art paper, the Photo Rag Metallic, I'm telling you, it did something to me. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that's a great point. It's different than any other. It's a true fine art paper. It's 100% cotton. It has no optical brighteners. It's 340 GSM. It's a very heavy paper, and it's got this beautiful Baryta coating on it. Printed, I have not, monochrome images, they sing like the angels as far as I'm concerned. It's just unbelievable. So Photo Rag Metallic is one to certainly take a look at. The other one, a favorite, our top selling is Photo Rag Baryta. It has the look and feel of a darkroom guy. Again, I worked for Ilford for a long time. I show this to people and they go, it feels like a darkroom print. I'm like, yeah. Imagine that.
Hey, Kevin, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I was going to mention too about the Photo Rag Metallic. Like you said, I am blown away by that Photo Rag Metallic. It really, especially from my Astro Landscape, has really been an amazing paper. And for those of you who are looking for like some sort of confirmation about that Photo Rag Baryta, it's the paper that you see if you ever see Clyde Butcher's prints down in the Cypress Garden, the Cypress Gallery. I mean, that's the paper he uses. He gets the paper through us. He orders the rolls off of us. It's an amazing paper, and if you've seen his prints, you see why he's printing on that stuff. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Beautiful. You're absolutely right. So glossy, one avenue. The textured are really watercolor papers. Some of these vary papers. If you were a watercolorist, you could go and buy the William Turner that doesn't have a receiving layer on it. It's got a nice tooth to it. We've got several different kinds. The textured only has 5 papers in it. All of these are in cut sheets and cut and rolls. Again, 13 by 19 sample pack. You get 6 different papers. I'm sorry, 5 different papers to choose from, 2 each, 13 by 19. You'll find a couple of papers in there that are great. Torsion is beautiful for black and white. Infrared photography, it's got this rolling texture to it. Very nice. Matte Smooth is exactly that. There's quite a few in here. The Smooth has 6 different ones. Right, Photo Rag, our most popular paper. We've got Ultra Smooth. We've got bright white papers. We've got papers you can print on both sides. So that's again, sample packs also available on it. So again, we're thinking smooth, textured, and glossy. And I'll just touch very briefly on the natural line. We introduced that last year. These are sustainable plants. Hemp, agave, and bamboo grow all over the world. They use less water than cotton. They also don't use pesticides. So we created a separate category. Bamboo's warmer, agave is a more of a natural white colors. We won the TIP award last year for these 2. So there's his own sample pack for that. There's 3 in that line. So again, glossy, textured, and smooth. And if you think about that, that's the way to define the lineup for you. Try the sample packs, try some papers, and get familiar with them. And chances are you'll have 2 or 3 that are your go-to kind of papers. But as Dono said, when we came out with the Photo Rag Metallic, boom, we had a whole new group of fans behind us. So any questions, of course, let me know. I'll turn this back over to Brenda, of course. Over to you, Brenda.
All righty. Let's see. I'm just checking to see if we have any questions at this point. Doesn't look like we do. All right. So let me just go back to my deck for 1 second, and just like our friends at. Am I sharing? I don't think I am. Let's try that. Sorry, guys. Okay. How about?
Yep, now you're sharing.
Yeah, but you're not seeing anything, are you?
Well, I see your desktop.
It's lovely, isn't it? How about now?
Okay, there we go. Yep.
So just like we have different papers for different images, we've got different devices for different needs for you. I know some of you probably have heard of the Color Monkey display. If you have that device, it's a free download for software to turn it into the new i1 Display Studio. We also have the i1 Display Pro, which has been in the line forever and ever. Recently, we also added, if you have one of those super expensive monitors that has its own software and an internal CPU inside the monitor, you're going to want to get either the i1 Display Pro or the i1 Display Pro Plus. And if you are a videographer, you're probably going to want to think about the Pro Plus because it gets another tone curve that videographers like to use, and because it gives you better blacks and shadow color in HD and HDR monitors. We've got the Color Checker Passport Photo 2 and color checkers in general. We've got the i1 Studio if you want to make your own profiles. We both have extensive websites, YouTube channels, all the information you could possibly want. These are our websites. And so now we're ready to hear your questions. So come on, somebody, start out. Somebody's got to have a question. Either that or Kevin and I did an extraordinary job.
Okay, Greg's got his hand up, so I'm going to unmute Greg and let him ask his question.
All right.
Let's see if I did the job right and see if I can.
Come on, Greg.
Unmute. So there we go. Try to get unmute. I do it?
Nope.
Let's try one more time. There we go. There's Greg.
Are we there?
I can hear you. I can see it.
Yeah.
Greg.
Hey, great show. I shoot a lot of infrared, and I heard torsion being mentioned. I normally or often shoot 590 or 720 nanometer.
Right.
And what would be for black and white conversion?
I would I deal with a photographer up here in the Northeast, Penelope Taylor Photography.
Right.
He specializes in that, and I keep trying to get her to stop printing on bright white and torchon. So we're constantly arguing back and forth. I like the torchon because I like the texture that infrared gets. But again, as I said, papers are emotional. I would certainly try both of them and see which one sings to you the loudest.
So Penelope, I know Penelope's work, but I asked her what paper. She said, go buy a pack.
She uses bright white and ultra smooth. So
Okay. So, but you'd like her to try torchon. She hasn't
well, I
done
keep
it yet.
saying that, and then she says you got this fetish for torchon, and we printed one of her black and white images several years ago at a trade show, and it was one on the lighthouse with ice or snow, I don't remember, and to me I was sold on that, on torchon. But again, papers can be very emotional.
Okay, thanks much.
You bet.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, somebody just sent me a question about privately. It says, can you please tell us how to use a calibrator? That's from
Yeah.
Paula.
Yeah, so Paula, we actually have a great video on our YouTube channel that walks you step by step how to use the little i1 Display Studio, which is the easiest thing to use. It's very affordable. It's easy to use. This video, I wrote the script for it. We made it a nice high quality production value video for you, showing you every single step that you need. The way it works in general is the software produces color on the monitor. The device measures that color. It sends that information back to the software, and then the software creates that profile. And that profile that's living inside your graphics card in your computer is like a set of correction factors that we used to use in the darkroom back in the day. It makes your monitor produce color as accurately as possible. That's the bottom line. But as far as the ease of use, super easy to use. Start the software up, plug the device in, do what the software tells you to do, save it at the end. That's it. I'm seeing a question here. Once a monitor is calibrated, how does one match the lab settings? You know, Ollie, Ori, that's a very, very good question. The reality is that in the photo industry, we have a set of standards. So D65, 120 to 100 candelas per meter squared for brightness, is the standard to which we set all our monitors. So assuming your lab is calibrating and profiling their monitors, and I guarantee you that they are, and you're calibrating and profiling your monitor, you're calibrating and profiling them to the same standard. Now, are they going to match exactly? No, they won't, because there are differences monitor to monitor. However, if you're calibrating both of those monitors to the same standard, then you're both in the same general place. Does that make sense? If you have more questions about that, then let me know.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works around here as far as that goes. And invariably what happens is when somebody comes in, they say, well, it's been calibrated to my monitor. I said, that's fine and dandy, but of course we're going to take a look at it on ours, and ours their calibration might have been lighted off or whatever. But of course, there's also the profiles from the papers that also help out with that as well too.
Absolutely.
So like I said, and then invariably when you do print it on a paper that you weren't trying on, that's going to give you some subtle differences that you weren't expecting before too.
Yeah, Veronica asked a very good question. I'm going to answer that, and then I want to talk a little bit more about how you get an even closer match. The question is, you mentioned that monitors can drift. How often would you recommend updating or recalibrating? I tell people to start at once a month. Now, if you have a very new laptop, or if you have a very recent technology monitor on your desktop, and you live in a house or have a business in a place where every time the air conditioner or the refrigerator turns on, your lights do not dim, then you might get away with every 2 months. But the point of doing your calibrating and profiling is you want to make sure you're doing it often enough that when you get to the end of that process and you compare the before and after, that you see no difference. If you see any difference, you're not doing it often enough. And if every time your refrigerator goes on, your lights dim a little bit, you're going to have to do it more often, because that's what causes things to drift that are electronics. Now,
and just a quick shout out, Veronica is based in LA. She does what I do out on the West Coast. She's also works for Hahnemühle, so she's on board. So.
She is, and a good one. Now, I wanted to talk about a little bit about a couple of things that you can do to get an even closer match. So Kevin will back me up on this. One of the best things you can do is get on the internet and teach yourself how to do what's called soft proofing. Okay? What that means is you're going to need to have the profile for the paper and printer and ink settings on your computer that you're going to print to. So if you're printing yourself, that's not a problem. If you're sending to a lab, then you're going to need to get a profile from them. Or if you're going to a regular semi-matte or glossy paper that's coming off of a machine, just use sRGB, because most of those printers are set to sRGB as a profile, general size and shape of the color gamut. But if you soft proof and then do fine edits on the soft proof, you're going to get even closer to the print output as far as a dead match. Now, there are two other things you got to worry about here. One is, what color is the light you're looking at the print in? If you're not looking at that print in daylight, something between 5,500 and 6,500 degrees Kelvin, or not degrees, 5,500 and 6,500 Kelvin, which is its own temperature rating, color rating, then you're going to see shifts in the print that are not real. Okay, you're going to be getting that from the light itself. We used to have a problem with LED lights where they had, and fluorescent lights where they had big dropouts in the spectrum, so that there were colors that you just couldn't see because the color of light that was hitting them just gave it nothing to bounce back into your eye. We don't have that problem anymore. There are very good LEDs out there that you can buy at Walmart, at Costco, at Home Depot, and you can, the be all end all is walk over to your window, and if you don't have any bright colored lighted walls around that are going to reflect on it.
You didn't see me in my underwear.
I'm sorry?
Thank you, sir.
I think somebody was talking to him outside, so I just
underwear and outside. I don't know how those two things match up. Anyway, so long story short, if all else fails, walk over to your window, look at it in some diffused sunlight, and you're going to get a very good idea. And what you'll notice is, if you look at that print, and let's say if you still have an incandescent lamp, or you have a really bad fluorescent lamp, and then you walk over to your window, you're going to see that print looks really different, right, Kev?
Sorry, yeah, exactly. I see this all the time. You go to trade shows and you see these horrible colored images because the lights are crappy inside trade shows.
Right.
And you go to daylight, go outside. And you're right, get at that proper Kelvin degrees. Absolutely.
Now, the other thing is, if you're printing on cotton rag papers have a very low contrast ratio. And the i1 Display Pro and the Pro Plus have a software setting where you can actually compensate for the super low contrast of some of the fine art papers. So that's another step. That's a step way, way, way into the future once you get down. You know, it's sort of like when you first start listening to music, your ear kind of tunes and you get, more and more critical. When you first start photography, everything kind of looks good at first, and then you get more and more and more critical. That's kind of the way this is. When you start really getting prints that match your monitor, you're going to want to make it better and better and better, and there are ways to get there.
Here we go. Hey, Brenda, there's a couple questions that popped up on there. I don't know if you saw them yet. One's from Greg. I use a MacBook Pro and a Benke monitor, and do I calibrate both or just the bends?
I calibrate both. Now with the BenQ, if you have one that has an internal CPU, you're going to want to use their software, and you're going to want to make sure that you have both an HDMI or some cable that's feeding from your computer to the monitor as far as carrying the signal. And then you also have a USB cable. Why do you have to have both of those? Because when that CPU is inside the monitor, when you profile that monitor, the LUT, the profile, gets uploaded back into the monitor. So that's why you have to have that loop where everything is talking and then answering. Question, answer, back and forth. And the LUT is actually uploaded into the monitor. If you're using it on a laptop, you use X-Rite software and just go through the process. That LUT is stored in your laptop on your graphics card.
Yeah. All right. And there was another question from, that's Kevin. He didn't ask that question. Oh, here we go. From Ori again. Once calibrated, will changing brightness of the monitor impact results?
Oh, yeah.
Question mark and soft proof question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of the process for getting your monitor, we don't say that we just profile the monitor, and we don't say that we just calibrate the monitor. So let's talk about the difference in those two terms. Calibrating means you're changing a setting on a piece of hardware. Okay? That means you're using a device and a piece of software, and then you're changing a setting to calibrate usually the luminance, the brightness of your monitor to what the software is telling you it should be. Okay? The profile is where it's reading all the colors and then making that lookup table. So we both calibrate and profile. And if we don't have, remember I said that monitors come out of the box really bright? Well, if your monitor is really bright, what are your prints going to be? Really dark. Because you're going to take that really bright monitor, you're going to put your beautiful image up on there, and you're going to darken it until it looks good on that monitor that's too bright. And then what happens is your lab gets it and they say, well, I don't know, but Don sure does like his prints dark, but who am I to judge, right? So remember I said, if you don't calibrate and profile a monitor that comes out of the box that's designed for internet, looking at your email, watching movies, which 99% of the monitors on the market, that's what they're designed for. They're going to be too bright, they're going to be too contrasty, and they're going to be a little bit blue, which means your prints are going to come back too dark, too flat, and a little bit warm.
All right. Ori's asking, if I have my own printer, is it also necessary to calibrate the printer as well?
Good question. So good paper manufacturers like Hahnemühle have wonderful profiles that you can download off the internet that they have made with extremely good equipment that you can use in your workflow. The answer to the question in the end of the story answer is yes, you need to have a profile, and that profile for your printer is not just for your printer, it is for the printer, ink, and paper that you are using on that day at that time. So if you have an older printer, then maybe you want to think about getting a device where you can make custom profiles. But if you have a relatively new printer and you use the manufacturer's inks instead of some third-party inks, the profiles that come from Hahnemühle are excellent, and we all three know the guy that makes them.
Yeah, we have We have 17 printers in our office in Crystal Lake when Travis does them. And if you even have an older printer, if he's archived them, he can send it to you. And if you got something really off the wall, he'll even help you make them if you want to do that. Then on the other side of the world, they've got about as many printers and they make the balance of them. So they're all custom tuned. It's like a craft brewery. A lot goes into it and a lot of hands-on. So that's right.
All right. We had another question too. Where do you input the profile? Into the printer, monitor, or paper? I'm assuming that she's talking about the ICC profile. You just import it into the software that's in there. So for like Adobe, it has its own little area where you can put the profiles into. So it just depends on which software you're using to access it. If you're not sure, again, Adobe and all the other software manufacturers are very helpful telling you where you can put the profile. It depends if you're Windows or Mac because it finds it differently.
And Travis can help you. I mean, you get stuck along the way, and I know Brenda can do that. Travis,
Well,
if you're in front of
yeah,
it,
the monitor profiles, the software puts it where it's supposed to be. So you don't have to worry about that at all.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, okay. She says, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions out there, guys? No? You know, I'll say this, you know, work, you know, again, it may sound like I'm I'm not trying to toot anybody's horn with this stuff, you know. When we started using Hahnemühle paper here at Johnson, it's just, you know, JPI. I was blown away by not only by the color and the vibrancy, and not only the selection of the papers or choices. I mean, yeah, there's lots of other paper choices out there, but you know, the Hahnemühle's been consistent all the time. I've been very happy with everything else. You know, we've done some excellent work with bamboo that's really pulled everything out really nicely. I myself, I've been a big fan of the photo rag, and I always butcher the name. I'm sorry, Kevin. Barita, but how do you pronounce it again? Barita. Sorry.
That's okay.
I know you told me before. Anyway, so the photo rag, I love that paper. It's a great paper. I've come to love the agave paper for my black and white prints.
Yep, beautiful.
Because it gives some deep, rich. If you got lots of black in your black and white prints, it gives such a nice, deep, rich black in there. And I got a print of it here at the store that I show people the sample of that paper and stuff. It's very amazing. And again, if you have it, like Roberto was saying, if you have a decent printer, if you have a more recent printer, again, we have the Pro 1000, the Pro 2000, which we do sell here at the store. So if you got room for now when I say the Pro 2000, you got to have some room for it. It's kind of a big. It does those 24-inch rolls, and they make another one, the Pro 4000, which does 44-inch rolls. So you got to have some room for these things. If you don't have room, we can print it here for you. So just give you a heads up.
And you guys do a fabulous job. The prints around your store are stunning. And you mentioned PhotoRag 308. Look, about 30 years ago, we came out with that paper. It has remained unchanged since day one. Now we make changes in some other papers, but PhotoRag is a legacy paper. We sell tons of it. It's just unbelievable. And people do exactly what you do. They go, I love PhotoRag 308. We talk about grams per square meter, not thickness or anything like that. So we talk 308. We have it in 188. We have it in 308. We even have it in 500. But the 308 is the most popular. So poke around the website. There's lots of good things on the website. We have certificates of authenticities. There's deckled edge. There's 4x6 tins. There's a wide variety of things on it. And again, smooth textured glossy. Keep it easy.
And my only final thing about, especially when you're printing, you know, it's great to print 5x7s, 8x10s. We have a printer just solely for that, and it doesn't do the art papers. But if you're going to be printing on the art papers, just print it big. I guarantee you, if you're just doing an 8x10, and again, it's still going to look great. But if you just do an 8x10 for something you thought was awesome, imagine what you're looking at, like a 16x20, or your aspect ratio 16x24, or even bigger. You know, I've easily been printing 20x30 prints, and you go, well, where do I put one? I put it on my wall. That's what you do, you know, and, you know, give them out as gifts, friends, things like that, you know. Well, okay, we got one more question here. Just to recap, I calibrate my laptop, not the monitor, and try torch on for the IR prints and for the infrared prints. I'm assuming he's talking about.
You calibrate both your monitor and your laptop monitor. So go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Let us know how the paper works out for you.
Hey, I want to say thank you to Kevin and to Dono for the opportunity to come hang out with you today. This has been a great experience, and thank you, Dono, for having us. We really appreciate it.
And Brenda, you knocked it out of the park today, Brenda.
Oh man, we had a good time.
Yeah, it's always great to work with you. It really is. So.
Well, it was again one of these things that I found, because the store was literally closed for about a month, when things were going down. I mean, Michael Arbor, the general manager, was kind of poking around the store to accept shipments and stuff like that, and he was answering questions. It was basically by appointment only, more or less. And it was just, and I started doing these webinars, and part of the thing was just being able to reach out to the community and show people that we're still there, we're still active. We always wanted to show people that we were just hopefully part of a solution instead of part of the problem of what's been going on.
Top notch.
So I've really been enjoying these things, and I can't thank everybody enough for participating, asking questions and stuff like that. I think Glidden had another question here. Is it normal for the laptop and external monitors to look different even after calibrating both? That's a good question.
It can happen. The little magic with that sometimes is to choose version 2 profiles. That sometimes will get them a little closer together. But what will often happen is one of those monitors has a much higher contrast ratio than the other. Usually when this happens, somebody is using one monitor that's a lot older and one monitor that's a lot newer. And that's kind of the perfect storm of not ever going to get them to match very well. But choose those version 2 profiles. Make sure that your settings are exactly the same for both of them. And then, let us know. Get a hold of me, get a hold of our tech people. We'll help you troubleshoot it.
Happy to talk about paper anytime. Anytime.
Yeah. I got somebody asking me privately, says, hey, once this situation's resolved, do you make house calls to show how to calibrate the monitor?
I wish I could go to everybody's house that's having trouble, because that's the easiest way to solve it. But nowadays, we get on a Zoom call like this, and 9 times out of 10, if we go through the software, you show me exactly what you're doing. I'm sure this is the same for you, Kev. If you walk me through your exact workflow, 9 times out of 10, we can find the problem right there. It's usually something stupid simple. I do it all the time. I had something happening to me the other day when I was working on a project, and I was just missing one simple little step, trying to make a cappella work. Have y'all tried that yet? To do songs with people?
No.
Hardest thing I've ever tried to do in my life.
No.
So usually it's one little thing. We'll help you any way we can.
Yeah. We've done, I've done some online private sessions with folks, not for calibrating or any of that stuff yet, but usually with cameras and stuff. For instance, I've got now a capture card reader, so I can plug in my camera and then also show the menu through the capture card for some of the systems. So I can kind of walk through them and show them some stuff too. So, I mean, I'd be willing to, if anybody wants help with that, I'll be glad to try to help them out with some of that stuff. These are the pros from Dover's when it comes to matching. So Brenda's been doing a lot longer than I have. So she knows her. I used to call myself a lab rat, but I was just a flunky.
I'm old, man. You know what? I just talking about the golden age of photography. You just heard Kevin go through all the wonderful different kinds, textures, types, base colors, surfaces of papers that you have to choose from. It's amazing. When I started photography, we had one kind of paper, and if you wanted it matte, you put it face up on the dryer, and if you wanted it glossy, you put it face down on the dryer. So, enjoy the golden age of photography.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're getting lots of thank yous. So I think we're going to, if it's okay with everyone, then I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's 3:00 now. We've been doing this for a little bit less than, a little bit like an hour now. So obviously, if anybody's got any questions, I did post my email. Kevin posted his email in the chat as well too. So if you want to, anybody wants to get a copy of that, just scroll up to the chat and you can see those emails in there as far as that goes. So yeah, so you can see Brenda's email at macgroup@us.com, Kevin and Hannibal. I know I haven't talked to her in a while, but Carol was my go-to for when I was starting to print with Hahnemühle and stuff like that. I was always showing Carol at the Hahnemühle USA. I was always, hey Carol, take a look at this, and she goes, oh, thumbs up, like. So she was like, so yeah, if you guys do print on the Hahnemühle, I definitely do. I definitely, Brenda, do you have a Facebook page or Instagram account that you got people to follow or anything like that?
Oh yeah, X-Rite Photo. It's X-Rite Photo on YouTube. It's X-Rite Photo on Facebook. It's xritephoto.com. So X-Rite Photo.
Yeah. So that way you can follow them along too. And like I said, in Hahnemühle USA on Facebook. I think it's the same thing on Instagram.
Instagram, it's Hahnemühle Global.
Okay.
But there is a Hahnemühle USA Facebook site that you can follow, and you'll get in with that. So.
Yeah, and like I said, every time I post and share stuff, they've been very responsive, and they're like they haven't given me a thumbs down yet, so that's good.
No, they wouldn't dare, Donald. They wouldn't dare. You're too good. You're too good.
So if you guys get a chance, just go ahead and follow them along and take a look at them. And I can't as I said it before at the beginning, I appreciate everyone's time, especially Kevin and Brenda for donating their time to help out with all this stuff. Thanks again, guys. And unless there's any other last minute questions, no. So we're going to end it there.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Donna.
Thanks, Dono.
Very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.